Welcome once again to Chiefs fans before we were cool, the official home of the Uncool Crew.
Absolutely. Welcome home, Uncool Crew. You've been wandering out and all those around all those cool people, and now finally you've come back to us.
It must be exhausting being around cool people all the time. So hopefully you
Oof.
can come here
Cool
and
people
just
are the
relax.
cool people are the worst.
They're the worst.
Absolutely. Anyway, no, absolutely. Good to be here. Good to be back. Thanks for jumping back in. We get to talk about our favorite day. Um, Raiders D-Day. Is coming. They talked a bunch of trash. They had all these weird things. They had these Mahomes rules, and it was like you realize you should just practice on being a competent NFL football team before you decide that you can beat up
Yeah.
on the Chiefs or
When
whatnot.
you have never beat our quarterback in your own stadium, you probably should talk less trash.
Yeah, and I mean that like ultimately, yeah, stuff like that. You're like, okay, well, they beat them in our stadium, but the point is like is true. Like they really haven't done a lot. It feels a little bit like the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals beat us obviously in the AFC Championship and the regular seasons and a couple things. Like they had a little bit longer run, but it's just this whole thing where it's like, oh yeah, we're not scared of the Chiefs. We're gonna fight the Chiefs. We're gonna, and you don't have to be afraid of the Chiefs, but you should respect the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And this whole thing like we're not they have a mysterious like this ethos and we're gonna beat it and we're not afraid of like look, it's okay to be afraid, like it's okay to recognize that they're just a really the Chiefs are really good and they don't win every game, so technically you do have a chance to win. I just think sometimes these teams they get themselves all hyped up. Like I do think some teams lose because they do get kind of scared and like shell shocked by the Chiefs. It's like, oh, we can't beat the Chiefs. Like I do think sometimes teams should just go for the field goal. We talked about this with Atlanta earlier this
Hmm.
year. Like I don't like our offense just isn't the same as it was with Tyreek Hill and stuff. Like just do the smartest thing in that moment. But like the Raiders did the same thing. They didn't take the 3 points and maybe they couldn't have at that point, but like I feel like that was a pretty big momentum switch and like you have three free points
Yeah.
and and your run there, I guess one thing we can talk about is like the run defense was electric again. But
Hmm.
I mean, I don't put as much stock as some would. Like it was like 1.6 yards per carry. It was insane. But it was also the Raiders who like Madison's are averaging like 2 point something yards per carry.
Yeah.
Remember, this is the offensive line that made Josh Jacobs worthless. Um, like
Yeah.
yeah, like
Yep.
Josh Jacobs, who after dominating for a whole season, just he couldn't do anything because they were hitting him in the back, like hitting him behind the line of scrimmage and stuff. So I don't think Madison's. I think Madison's worse than Jacobs, and it's also getting hit pretty hard in the back, and the end zone. So
Yeah.
it's just one of those things for sure.
Yep. Yeah. It is nice that we continue to dominate at Arrowhead West, though, Um,
Arrowhead.
but
Okay.
um, yeah, they talk a lot of trash, and at the end of the day, they were beat by a Muppet, right? They kept making the Kermit jokes, and
With
and
the Browns.
they're a team that's imploding hard. And to be honest, the final score, we by seven, doesn't really reflect like they scored in a situation where they had to do an onside kick, which is very rare, and so it wasn't really actually that close of a game by the end.
Yeah.
They got there's that I couldn't watch this, so I watched the replay. I think the Mahomes interception was off a tip. Is that
Yeah.
what it was? And the tip ball, so they got it in the red zone, and then uh didn't walk away with any points there.
No.
And that's what you were saying is they maybe outplayed themselves in a sense there. It's hard to say. Obviously, scoring three doesn't seem to matter when we win by seven, but you don't know how other things could have happened.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, again, I only was able to watch the first half completely.
Mm.
Uh, but the Chiefs' game plan, however it was against Crosby, seemed to work pretty well.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like that there was it didn't seem like there was a ton of pressure. Mahomes seemed to be okay, not getting
Mhm.
um moved around too much, but
Yeah.
yeah,
From what I understand, Jawan Taylor actually did a really good job on his side against Crosby. Wanya Morris really struggled, so they had to give him some help and some different things. But I mean, it's one bad game, and it's second year in the league against an elite, like some elite rushers. So we'll see how that goes as far as the offensive line. That's something I'm interested in going forward. Like, does it continue to be Wanya? Do they go back um, to our draft the when we drafted? Um, I don't know, but that you're right. Against Crosby, we did a really good job, and we kept him away from Mahomes and his, again, slightly dirty plays. I don't know. You don't want to be. You don't want to throw that around. But it did seem, like the last times that he kind of pushed those rules a little bit. In any
yeah,
case, yeah. What was your takeaways from offense? Do you have any thoughts on the offensive side?
yeah. I honestly felt like you know, 20, yeah, 27, I think was the final score, right? 27 points
Yeah.
is a pretty good amount. And I honestly felt like besides a couple of drives that looked not so good, or a couple of bad, like that pick, which again was a little bit fluky. I thought the
Mhm.
offense looked pretty good. I think, like, 2 weeks ago we had no receivers, our offense actually looked the best that I had. And I think this week
Mhm.
it looked pretty decent. I mean, like, Hopkins obviously limited production.
Yeah.
He'd only been there for 3 days.
Right.
Um, and some of those days were travel. But he
Hmm.
made an impact on a couple of important plays. Obviously, Kelsey was back in it, which was interesting because you think a division team would be better against that, but it also seemed like they play a lot more zone.
Hmm.
And it seems like people don't play a lot of zone against us anymore. But they seem to play more of that, and the offense honestly seemed to be clicking. I think there's still some problems with finishing drives for the Chiefs, but
Yeah.
overall, I was very happy with what I saw as far as trending in the right direction.
Right. Speaking of red zone, I actually kind of like that they're going back to at least trying to pass it a few more times, different things. Like there's one, it didn't work, but they tried to pass three times and didn't get it. Um, that honestly, in my opinion, is good because we need to have some different options. Like think of if you face Detroit in
Mhm.
the Super Bowl. I know that's way ahead of the time, but like I'm just saying an elite run defense. You want to be able to have plays that way, and you don't want to be one dimensional, especially in the red zone. So
Mhm.
I agree that they need to work on stuff. I'm glad that they're kind of getting back to that and working on some things. That was good. It's good to see Travis Kelsey get in the end zone. Seems like he's getting a little bit back into stuff. So that's good to see him be so productive. So I like that as far as offense. So yeah, defense obviously elite. Run defense, but remember who we're facing. Like our offense, we scored 27 points, but it was the Raiders who have been one of the worst defenses
Yeah,
in the league. So just kind of tempering any experience there, but it is a division opponent. They did have Mahomes rules for what that's worth. And but we won, and Kermit the Frog prevailed. So
yeah.
that's good to see.
Kermit always
Uh,
comes out on top.
Kermit is the bomb diggity. Let
Mhm.
me go ahead and get the Brother Wonders pulled up.
Okay.
Um,
I wonder what he's gonna wonder.
oh yeah, it's very wonderful. I'm sure. Um, so what's something that surprised you about the Chiefs this season? Pretty general question.
Hmm. Well, I think something that's a surprise. I actually felt like after the stress that was the regular season last season, I felt like, man, the front office really went after the wide receiver position.
Yeah, yeah,
And obviously we found ourselves in a position where they continue to have to do that. Um, but I thought that was a good surprise because I think like
yeah.
you can be in the spot where like we just won the Super Bowl with a bunch of
Hmm.
players who would be the third or fourth string on their team
Yeah,
or any other team. So like we
yeah,
don't need to go for after this, but I'm glad
yeah.
they still are trying to give some help and just make things a little easier. Um,
Right.
I That's kind of what I would think, but
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the course correction there, I wasn't too surprised because of what happened after Tampa Bay, where we just went after, you know, O line like crazy because that stopped Mahomes from being able to be Mahomes, right?
mhm.
It's like that's never going to happen again. And I think the wide receiver was a big enough issue. Like you said, we did win the Super Bowl this time, but we made it to the Super Bowl that last time. Like so it's good. It's good that they took it seriously. I'm a little surprised. I mean, obviously these injuries. I was thinking it would be a little bit more exciting. I'm actually surprised for 7-0 with the injuries to the wide receivers. When I saw Rasheed Rice go down and all this other stuff, I was like, oh. But um, it's good to see the defense is so elite, and
Yeah,
we've been able to push through without. So
yeah,
anyway, yep, it's good.
yeah.
Good.
Snead obviously played so well for us last year, but this isn't really a surprise. But McDuffie has really filled that role well, um,
Yeah,
in that he's been playing real good. So
yeah. I expect the defense to step back a little bit, but I think they might even be better, even with some injuries
they're
and
definitely
stuff.
better against the run than they were last year.
Yeah.
So
I just think it's so valuable, as I mentioned before. So I'm glad that the Chiefs front office agrees with me.
yeah,
Just
they took your advice.
took my advice very seriously. I may be uncool, but I am respected, well
Hmm.
respected. Um, so the next question: Do you expect the Chiefs to win by more than 9.5 points against? That's the betting line against the
Is it in Kansas City or is it
Buccaneers.
in Bay?
It's, I believe, it is a home game.
Okay.
They don't have Mike Evans, so they're pretty decimated as far as wide receivers. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think so. We rarely. I mean, we just saw the Raiders, break that. The Chiefs have, for whatever reason, people like to bet on them because they're like the best team. I think just people just generally will just bet on them because they're the best team. But they are not a good bet against the spread, I think, in general, unless they're underdogs. And then they're
Yeah.
great bet against the spread. So I don't think it'll be more than 10. I would love it. I would love to have, the Chicago game from last year.
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening.
So I think that for how do I put this? I wouldn't be surprised if they don't win by 10 or more, but I also
Yeah.
think it's likely that they will be up by two scores close to the end of the game.
Yep.
Maybe the Buccaneers score a garbage time touchdown or
Yep.
field goal to make it so it's not 10, but
Yep.
that's kind of where I'm thinking.
Yeah, we just saw that with the Raiders. So,
Yeah.
Spagnuolo doesn't care.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about your betting line. So you shouldn't care about betting on the just in general, not the best route to go. Remember the last time we tried to bet Chris's house,
Yeah.
uh, we lost it. So I don't
Yeah.
know who technically owns it at this point, but we got to be
Yeah.
more careful with our bets there.
Yeah.
What acquisition do you like the most for us this season?
I mean, it's hard not to say Hopkins a little bit. Obviously it tested out. I think not as flashy as a move, but I think a really smart move was picking up Juju. But then I guess the one that I'd say has been the most benefit to us is Hunt. Um,
Yeah, oh my word.
overall, like I think Hopkins is the biggest splash, but Hunt is probably the most significant so
Yeah,
as far as what's been accomplished by that. Um,
yeah. That was a very wonderful Brother Wonders. I just think it's such a good, interesting question, and I could go so many different ways. I still think I don't like to be results based in my analysis of that. I still think Marquise Brown was the best signing. The
yeah,
greatest off season. Like I just think that was the best deal and the most talent. And obviously we have experienced zero benefit from that. But that's I again, if you want to talk about the actual impact, um, I like Kareem Hunt. I don't think a move is that much of a needle mover, except for maybe it saves us from a turnover or so a game, like because he's a lot more secure.
yeah.
He's carrying.
Well, I think.
Um, Juju is good, but he's hurt now. So
Mhm,
I kind of am with you a little bit. Now, the one we haven't talked about recently is the Uche, the edge rusher
mhm.
signing. And again, we haven't seen any benefit of that yet. But I like that signing as well. So I just think the front office is on fire. I
Yeah,
really do. Their drafts have been good. All the signings have been low risk, like smart signings. Like, you see what happened to Snead, as sad as it is in Tennessee. Like this is these are the good. Now, part of that's probably just because the defense around him is falling apart. Like he's not. It's not
yeah.
just him.
It's a
Probably,
bad
but
team.
the bad
Wouldn't be
team.
surprised if they try to trade him back to us.
Yeah. Do you want to stay back? We'll take all his salary, and you can just have it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Dude,
I think.
that trade. Sorry, the trade for Deontay Johnson. Just talking about some other moves is insane. Like, did you look at that? I think it's
Mm,
like fifth round for a sixth round, but Baltimore is going to be towards the top, right, of the picks. So they'll be like one of the later picks of the fifth round, and they traded it for a Carolina sixth round pick, who's going to be probably at the bottom, like close to bottom, if not the bottom.
mm,
Like they trade Deontay Johnson for like maybe moving up max 10 spots late in the fifth round.
mm.
Like that's insane to me.
Yeah.
Like there must be something like there's got to be something behind the doors like why the Chiefs didn't want him. But I like Hopkins. I think he'll be a good fit, and I think that probably is the right answer at the moment. Right? Let's be prisoners of the moment. I'll join. I'll jump in your boat, Joel. Let's DeAndre Hopkins. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, and I think, to your point, I think like what I think the thing that Hunt's really important about is I just think with the injuries at wide receiver,
Yeah,
having a run game, especially power rushing threat,
yeah,
is really helpful. But I think if
yeah,
Brown is healthy for the playoffs, people are not going to have seen him all season. It's just going to be another threat. Like it could be really hard. Like it could just be one of those things where it's like our offense just kicks into gear in the
yeah,
postseason again because you're basically, him and Hopkins, then
yeah,
that's two legitimate receivers right
yeah,
there. So
yeah.
yeah,
And
we'll
Brown's
see.
injury isn't really related to his like his knees or legs. Like it's
Yeah,
like that's the nice thing about it too is that he's not um like he comes in like fresh legs, kind of like
yeah.
Sermon came in with fresh legs. Now I think I've mentioned this before. He like jokes about ice baths and stuff. I really think we need to stop using Kareem Hunt so much.
Hmm.
Like until Pacheco gets back. I just man, that just makes me nervous because I would love to have both.
Hmm.
Now that Kareem's on our team, he's doing good. It'd be good to have a 1-2 punch. It wouldn't be as good for my fantasy team
Hmm.
with Pacheco, but like, who cares about fantasy when you can win a Super Bowl? Like, I'll lose
Hmm.
my fantasy leagues if we get the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I just think it would be better. And I'm a little nervous about how much we're using Kareem Hunt. Um, so anyway, so that's something else that I've thought about when you seeing 20 plus carries every game. Like
Hmm.
people aren't giving Bijan Robinson that, like, young, healthy running backs. Like that,
Yeah.
I think the NFL in general has kind of realized that that's not usually a recipe for season long health. But
Hmm.
uh, yeah. Anyway, so those were some thoughts I had about that, and those were some thoughts my brother had.
Mm.
Brother wondered. He
Good,
wondered some
good
wonder
wondering, brother.
good wonderings. Yeah, not all who wonder are lost,
Mm,
and definitely not all who wonder are cool
true.
or Chief fans.
Or
Uh,
Chiefs fans, but good thing you don't have to be cool to be a Chiefs fan.
That's right. Yay! I need to get Isaac doing that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
yeah,
I think we talked about kind of generally, we don't expect this to be, like this, especially with their wide receiving core decimated. This should be about as easy of a game as, you have. I think we talked
yeah,
about the rest of the season is like the hardest part of our schedule is behind us.
yeah,
We got the Bills still. I kind
yeah,
of expect us to lose that game. Um,
yeah,
Steelers game, depending, could be one, but
yeah,
this is a really good spot to be. And besides the Bills, we have tiebreakers on a lot of the teams that you might expect
yeah,
to be there at the end of the season. So it's really shaping up very well so far.
yeah. It's funny, and the sports heads will be talking about like, are we a paper tiger? Are the Chiefs really this good? It's like, oh, are the Chiefs going to go all the way? Win out? It's like, both of those. Like, we're on game 8. Let's just focus
Yeah.
on this game. Like, we don't need.
It is funny though when I heard what was like the Chiefs are not as good as they look. Like they're not good
Yeah,
enough to win every game, and only one team's ever gone undefeated. It's like, well, they're not, I mean, that team didn't win the Super Bowl, so that's not the goal. And I was like,
yeah,
sure, anything can happen. But if you are looking at this and you're like, this Chiefs team can't win the Super Bowl, and it's like, did you just not watch football last year? Because we were
yeah,
way worse in the regular season last year than
yeah,
we are this year.
yeah. The
And then
same
the
people are
playoffs
shouting
came.
it.
Yeah, and then the switch got flipped and the Dolphins got frozen. And
Yeah,
yeah, so
Ravens fake themselves out, right? Like it just all the things, man. Yeah, no, the Chief go Chiefs. Like we got a really good setup, really good team. Things are clicking a little bit. I think the offense is going to get a little bit better. I like DeAndre Hopkins over the middle as a safety valve. He played 30% of snaps. He's probably going to start playing more and more. Xavier Worthy, man, wouldn't it be great if he starts like, getting, I mean, obviously totally different role, but getting kind of like Rasheed Rice improvement, starts really clicking with Mahomes and
yeah.
we start having at least one or two um Tyreek Hill like plays, those kinds of
Yeah.
things.
When the commentator pointed out that like they put him like alone on a side a lot. And it's like
Yeah,
if you can get him comfortable and running all sorts of routes, like if he's a one-on-one, they're probably going to give him cushion because they have to respect this the speed. And so a lot of quick slants and things like that, he
yeah.
could be, quick, 10-yard play just for just things like that you could
Just for
be
living
seeing.
there.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, they haven't expanded his route tree too much. Hopefully they do that more. And I think you can see some of that a little bit.
mhm.
But there's always a learning. I think there's still learning too with Mahomes, like
Yeah.
some of those passes, making sure that they're in the right spot and he doesn't fall down,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. So there's a lot of stuff going on there for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's great to be a Chiefs fan,
Hmm.
undefeated. We'll just keep rolling, and I don't see, I'm excited for the rest of the season, and yeah, Mahomes is playing really well. Chiefs are playing really well, and we beat the Raiders. It was nice, not
Yep.
unexpected, but nice. And we'll play the Buccaneers, who are pretty banged up. So
Yep.
hopefully we keep good times rolling, keep
Hmm.
winning, and yeah. So I'm pretty excited. Been a been a good run. But yeah,
Yeah.
do you have any any stars to hand out for this game? Anybody impress you a lot?
Mm. I thought it was just really good to see Kelsey back. I wasn't
Yeah,
super worried,
yeah,
I I don't know if it's just that he's not the primary read or what, but to me it also felt like maybe their game plan is just to not rely on him during the regular season.
Yeah,
But he looked just like himself. I wasn't worried that Mahomes hadn't thrown a touchdown yet in October, or whatever else. And like I think the last couple games the interceptions have been a little bit more on the fluky side.
yeah,
Um, Now I've never seen an interception as fluky. Did you see that one in the Bengals game?
yeah. That was nuts.
That's I'd say either the flukiest or the best interception I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Um, but it's like, maybe you say, well, a batted ball that's on him or whatever, but it's part of it is when you've got receivers that are not quite as talented and you need
yeah,
to throw into tight. And that's one thing I admire about him is he trusts Xavier Worthy and he throws it in tight coverage to him or in 50-50s. And Worthy doesn't often come down with those yet, but um Mahomes is willing to he puts his faith in his
yeah,
receivers.
yeah.
So yeah.
Gotta do that, man. Yeah, I think Mahomes is in a much better spot mentally. Like the team
Mhm.
as a whole, better spot. Think that thanks to Brett Beach and all the changes they made. So, really glad about that. I think, and so I'm really happy with the defense as a whole.
Mhm.
I think it's just been so good with the run defense. If I could, whoever, all the people involved in that, give them a gold star for the game, and they're so good. So grateful for that. Oh, here's one last thought, since this is the hot takes one, and we should make this the title.
All right.
Can the Chiefs, if the Chiefs won 16 games, right, or like one, like, do we still play just 16 games? No, so yeah, we have, sorry, 15 games, right? Do we play our starters for the last one?
Right. I think Andy Reid wouldn't.
I know, isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Like I was thinking, like I somebody brought it up, like and what I was listening to, and I was like, I love the fact that I don't think Andy Reid would have done it, and they would totally play the backup, um, and that would be crazy. Like like it's like you have a chance for history. They're like, we don't care. We want the prize. Keep your eyes on the prize. Like
Yeah.
Travis Kelce not playing, even getting those 13 yards for his
Yeah.
10,000 yard season. It's so cool. I love that.
Yeah. It seems like he only if there's a financial incentive for someone like Chris Jones last year, right? He
Yeah,
played got one sack he got one sack. Uh
yeah,
But honestly, in some sense, I would feel better about our chance of winning the Super Bowl if we lost exactly one game. But
yeah,
this is something I've been thinking about, and I don't think it's going to happen like this. If in the same year Mahomes went undefeated,
yeah,
won the Super Bowl to get a three-peat,
yeah,
something no team's ever done either of those, does he does he then even need to be any more Super Bowls to be considered greater than or as good as Brady if he
yeah.
does both of those things?
I mean, again, I don't. All those conversations are kind of silly to me, but I do like Brady. Obviously, was on the undefeated. He was the quarterback of the undefeated team. And then he lost the Super Bowl,
Mhm.
but that not necessarily all on Brady. Like it was really good pass rush. It's Steve Spagnuolo, really.
Hmm.
That's who's like his defense. Um, but yeah, I mean I think the talking that's for the talking heads of this guy,
Yeah.
and all their clickbait articles about are
Hmm.
the Chiefs going to go undefeated or are they paper tigers and so forth. It's like no, they're probably not going undefeated. Also, they're not paper tigers. They're really good. They
Yeah.
just play vanilla in the regular season because it's all about February,
Yeah.
the postseason. So
Honestly, I think more realistically, we lose one, maybe two games before the last week, and we still
yeah,
don't necessarily have to play our starters. But I also
yeah,
think it's a situation where we could still win the last week of
yeah.
the season with our backups.
I,
Um,
I mean that's happened. That happened last year, right? I believe
yeah.
so.
So.
Yeah. Who's the last game? Is it Denver or something?
I think it's Denver. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Denver's looked a lot better defensively this year. I'm not sure we would get away with that this year, but last year I think we played the Chargers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And we'll see. I mean,
the
they might not have anything to play for either at the end. So, I mean, they
you know,
look like they're going to be a wild card team potentially, but there's still a lot of season left.
oh
And
yeah.
and I don't know that they've really played anyone that good yet. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, it could very well be this. The defense itself is not quite as good as it appears. And Bo Nix is, I think this will be a challenge for him. He's playing the Ravens, and they have a banged up secondary, but they are pretty smart and they're a good defense, and they might be behind. So it'll be a good test, a litmus test for Bo
yeah.
Nix. So we'll see. But ultimately, we got Mahomes, we got DeAndre Hopkins, we got Boucher, this edge rusher. We have Kareem Hunt. We
Hmm.
have, we have Marquise Brown, if he can ever get healthy. We have all these players, Juju Smith-Schuster, and none of them were super expensive, and all of them seem to fit really well. And so, let's keep rolling as Chiefs fan, keep clapping our little hands
Hmm.
together, and on to the Buccaneers.
All right.
Let's go beat that depleted Chiefs.
Hmm.
It would have been more fun to have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin have a shootout. I would
Yeah.
love to see one of those games. Maybe the Bills will be that way.
I
We
feel
just
like
haven't.
it's really easy to like Baker Mayfield, but I hope he does not have a good week this week.
That's right, Baker
So
Mayfield. Get wrecked. I don't
if
know.
you're
Just
listening to this, Baker Mayfield, I hope you have a
yeah.
great Sunday and a great Tuesday, but I hope you have a terrible Monday.
We're watching you. All right. See y'all
All
next
right.
week.
Bye.
Bye.